Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theaters. Every day, people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? TEDx is an initiative of the TED Conference, a nonprofit devoted to ideas worth spreading. We grant free licenses to allow TED-like events to spread globally. This event today is based on the TED Conference format and ideals, but is independently organized by your local community. So please make sure to thank the team of volunteers who worked so hard on today's event. It's their ideas, dedication, and time that made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are, of course, those of those speakers, not necessarily of TEDs. We hope their talks spark an exciting conversation among you. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for openness and for critical thinking, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to TEDx Oneonta. Are you ready? I'm not sure you're ready. I'll try one more time. It must have been me. Welcome. Tonight is TEDx Oneonta. Are you ready? Okay, I'm ready too. Let's get started. My name is Dan Bartleman, and I am thrilled to be on the stage to welcome you to TEDx Oneonta on behalf of the planning team. We're a 9-member team working on this for about 9 months, and we're so excited to share with you 5 speakers that we have recruited from not just around this area, not around the state, but around the country and around the world. And that is the magic of what TED brings to TED stages wherever they are. In that intro video you saw, it talked about the global movement of TEDx events. I want to talk to you a little bit about that so you have an understanding of what you are about to experience tonight. TEDx started in 2008 after the eruption of TED Talks Online in 2006. The conference had been going on for a while, and they thought, let's expand this. Let's go global. Let's go year-round. How can we do it? Let's give the power to communities to create their own event in the spirit of TED. And now we have it in Oneonta. So, there are a few thank yous I want to give before we introduce our first speaker. Like I said, this is our 3rd installment of TEDx Oneonta. And with us from the beginning are some sponsors that I want to thank first. First is Hartwick College. They said yes right away. They're here. The next is NYCM Insurance. They also said yes from the beginning. I think there's a few NYCM here too. This is an entirely community-built event. Everything you see on stage is something that was contributed in one form or another to make this happen. The rug I'm on is from Endwell Rugs that helped us out. Our speakers had nourishment from Wise Guys sandwiches right outside. And the letters were cut by a friend in Texas. Everyone wants to contribute to TEDx because these are ideas that change the world. And maybe you'll hear a few of those tonight. It's about sharing ideas, ideas worth spreading. And we want to get to it just as fast as we can. So throughout the night, we'll say a few things about some of our other sponsors, things that we've put together. But I want to give you just a sort of game plan of what to get from tonight. We have 5 speakers. We're going to have 3 right away. We'll have a short interlude. Don't even need to leave the auditorium. 2 more speakers. And then this is about connection as well as it is about hearing great ideas. So we hope you will stick around and join us for the reception out in the lobby to talk to the TED team, to talk to your TED audience, and talk to the TED speakers as well. We'll be here. We want to hear from you. It's about sharing ideas, and not all the ideas are on stage tonight. You might have some you want to share. So, our first speaker tonight Abby Metcalf has joined us all the way from Albany, California. She's a career psychologist, author, and speaker, and tonight she's going to share us her ideas on relationships. So please help me welcoming Abby Metcalf to the TEDx Oneonta stage.
Good evening. I'm going to end 3 age-old mysteries for you. These are problems that have plagued the human condition for decades, and I'm going to put them to rest right now. Are you ready? The correct position for the toilet seat is down. Toilet paper should absolutely roll from the top. And forks should be placed in the dishwasher with the tines up so they can clean properly. Now, how do I know these facts? How have I solved these great dilemmas of our time? Is it my PhD and 2 master's degrees? I'm a Jew from New York. All we do is go to school, right? Is my PhD in the proper loading of dishwasher cutlery? Is it my over 30 years of working directly with people and counseling them? No. It's because I'm a control freak and I know my way is right. I can also tell you what the correct temperature in my home should be. My man gets that wrong a lot too. And see, there's the problem. My partner doesn't actually agree with all these facts I just laid out. He thinks forks should go in the dishwasher tines down. I know, the fool, right? We both have excellent arguments for the best way to deal with forks, but at the end of the day, I have my side and he has his. And you do this in your relationship. You think there's one right way to drive to your favorite restaurant for dinner. Someone thinks there's too many decorative pillows on your bed. And someone in this room has made the divorce-worthy mistake of taking the knife directly from the peanut butter into the jelly. And you will have epic battles about these small things because at the end of the day, you have your side and your partner has theirs. Taking sides is serious business in relationships. When we take sides like this, we start examining all the things our partners are doing or not doing and comparing it to all the things we're doing, which of course are always more and better. We say things like, you need to pull your weight around here and, pick up some slack. Or, hey, it's your turn to put away the dishes. Do you hear yourself? It's your turn. If you're taking turns in your relationship, I can tell you right now, you're in big trouble. We take turns in games. If you're treating your relationship like a game, it's not good. When we do this, we're keeping score, and we set ourselves and our partners up on opposite teams. And if we're on opposite teams, it means someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. And you're not cheering for their team to win. How do you expect to have a close, trusting relationship when there's this undercurrent of competition, when there's this undercurrent of someone losing, that if you get more of something, I get less? And that's why we say things like, great, you went out with your friends on Friday, so I get to go out with mine on Saturday. Or, oh, I'm so happy you got that promotion at work. I guess I'll just be stuck at home taking care of the kids. We compete for time, money, and emotional resources. But you can't have an intimate, emotionally close relationship based on competition. And this is the reason relationships fail. And I'm not just talking about divorce. I'm sure most of you know the divorce rate in the US hovers somewhere around 50% and is even higher for second and third marriages. But what you might not know is that it's estimated that 60% of people are unhappy in their marriages. Because when we're competing, we're not in true partnership, so we end up feeling resentful, unappreciated, and dissatisfied. Now, I've been studying relationships for the last 34 years. And I can see some of you have stopped because you're trying to figure out my age. So I'll tell you that I'm 54 so we can move on. So I've been studying relationships for all this time and meticulously tracking people's progress. And I've discovered one simple but profound concept that completely changes the game, that stops all this competition, that moves couples from disconnected, lonely, and frustrated to deep connection, trust, and ease. And that one thing is to understand that you and your partner are one shared resource. Since you're a shared battery, taking energy from your partner is taking energy from yourself. When you look to your partner to take on tasks and to do things in the house, you both end up exhausted, and there is no room left for compassion, patience, or God forbid, some rock star sex. Your partner can't take things off your plate because it's the same plate. You're just moving around the mashed potatoes. When we're competing, we're not in true partnership, so we're left feeling dissatisfied, lonely, and rejected. So what can we do? Well, you can start to think about how to change that plate, how to stop looking to your partner to take things off of it. And we're told a lot that our relationships are 50-50. We're sort of entrenched in this mindset for a long time. And we end up thinking that it's a simple addition problem in some way, and that, one half, our better half, our other half, plus me equals this whole relationship, right? We've been hearing this our whole lives. And the problem is that that's a lie. Anyone who's been in a relationship for more than 5 minutes will tell you that it is not simple addition, right? Relationships are complex. They are exponential. They are synergistic. They're actually multiplication problems. And when you have a half times a half, you end up with a quarter. 2 half people in a relationship, and you end up with less than you started with. And you know I'm telling the truth because you've been there. Some of you more than once. So if you want a whole relationship, and we know it's a multiplication problem, what do we have to do? We need a whole person times a whole person to get this whole relationship. Make sense? So, but I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're going, well, Abby, that's very nice, except my partner won't change. My partner won't work on their one. I've got great news for you. You can completely transform your relationship even if your partner won't do one thing. But there's a catch. But you have to change first. The one in the most pain always needs to change first. So how you do that change is really important. And I'm sure some of you have tried to change your relationships before, yeah, and made some changes, but then you kind of went back into old patterns and behaviors. And that's because you weren't doing it the quote-unquote right way. There's a secret to it that no one tells you. And what it is this. Our conscious brains process information at a rate of 50 bits per second, while our unconscious brains process information at a rate of 11 million bits per second. I want you to think of that for a minute. 50 versus 11 million. So you'll learn a great tool, you'll come to a wonderful TED Talk and hear something incredible, and consciously you'll think, yeah, I'm gonna do that in my relationship. That's a really good thing. I'm gonna go work on that. But unconsciously, what's happening below the surface that you don't even realize is all of your doubt. You've said things to yourself like, our problems are big. They've been going on a really long time. So that little tool Abby said, that's not gonna work for me. That would work for other people. And I'm here to tell you that that's not how it works, that it actually will work for you, but you have to align these pieces. You have to start really thinking about how to get the 50 and the 11 million together. And when you're thinking these things, when you're full of doubt, anxiety, worry, resentment, anger, all that, that's what your partner's picking up on. They're not picking up on the great tool, they're picking up on this other stuff. So what happens is they don't change. They don't do anything different because they get that something is off and wrong. Your partner doesn't hear what you say, they hear what you mean. So what you need to do is line up what you mean and what you say, right? Your actions, all that stuff has to line up. And it's difficult sometimes to think about how to do that. I'm sure a lot of you are like, well, what's next? Well, the good news is there's a simple and easy way to do that. And that is to give 100%. 100%. Hold nothing back. No keeping score, no thinking what the other person's doing, no complaining about what they're doing, no comparing what they're doing to what you're doing. Just leaving that all at the door and starting to really focus on being 100% in your relationship. Every day to wake up with that. Now, if you were at a job and you gave 50%, would you expect raises and promotions? Probably not. Your relationship is no different. Putting in 100% is the key to creating a truly happy and connected, emotionally connected relationship. And notice I didn't say 150%. That's called codependency. No one needs to do that. But 100% effort, love, compassion, warmth, humor, thoughtfulness, every single day. Instead of complaining about something that you want your partner to do, I want you to take 100% responsibility and do it yourself. If you want to see more love in your relationship, be more loving. If you want to see more kindness, more compassion, be more compassionate and kind. What happens when we start to do this is that your one will shine very bright. That one that is you will light up, and your partner will be drawn to you like a moth to the flame. When you do this, when you really live in this way, you become a warm center in your home. And I have to tell you, folks, it can be a cold world out there, no? It can really feel like our homes are the only place that are safe. And that's what I want it to feel for everyone in this room. I want your partner to be able to come home and warm their hands, relax, and feel cherished because of that 100% you're putting in. Great relationships aren't built in a day. Great relationships are built daily. So to do this every day, I want you to wake up each day, and I want everyone to start doing it tonight. Not tomorrow, not on Monday, not the first of next month, tonight. Start thinking of how you can put in your 100% every day, consistently. Remember, it's that consistency every single day. Because when you do that, you will find that this comes back to you, this love, the compassion, all those things come back to you tenfold. There is great love here for you. Thank you so much.
All right, nice job, Abby. Joining us next, and all the way from New Zealand, is Gertrude Matshe-Kaninsky. She is a global curator of Her Story, a women's global empowerment conference, and an energetic and inspirational speaker. Tonight she is sharing her talk titled Ubuntu 2.0, Humanity's Operating System. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Gertrude.
When I was 17 years old, I went to visit my grandmother. I remember sitting with her on her veranda, sharing this large bowl of mangoes and watermelons. And the silence was broken by the sound of a helicopter flying into our village. I ran out into the courtyard and I noticed a shower of white pieces of paper raining from the sky and small little packets that turned out to be condoms. I grabbed one of the papers as it flew by and realized it was an AIDS awareness campaign by World Health. I watched the other adults around me doing the same thing, looking at the cartoon characters, scrunching up the papers, and they were ready to light their fires. I watched the kids running around the village because they'd found these balloons. I was horrified. And then they started running these workshops in the village square, educating people about the spread of AIDS. And they would take a broomstick and put the condom on a broomstick and speak in English. 2 weeks later, every single hut in our village had a condom with a broomstick behind the door to prevent AIDS. That is when the activist in me came alive. I remember writing to World Health, and I told them my observations, and I asked them to sponsor me to write a play with an AIDS theme. And I went back to everything my grandmother taught me, to use the power of story to educate. By the time I was 19, I had created an all-women's theater group called Just for Women Theater. We were 5 girls, feisty, spreading political messages through plays. We would run workshops in the vernacular languages like Shona and Ndebele. And our mission was to educate that rural woman who had never gone to school and conscientize her about the spread of the AIDS virus. I learned so many things at this time, and I used everything that I was born into, and in particular, Ubuntu. So you're asking, what is Ubuntu? Ubuntu ngamuntu ngabantu says a person is only a person through other people. I am because you are. Ubuntu is the spiritual foundation of most African societies. And it's enshrined in this belief that if you live with a radical connection to others, you can solve humanity's problems very easily. I moved to New Zealand 20 years ago and became a serial social entrepreneur. And I had a vision that I would make money, that I could give away and change the world. One of my most successful business ventures is called Walk on the Wild Side Tours. I created the Symbiotic Tourism Company, where I take people to Zimbabwe on a 10-day trip that is life-changing. You spend 5 days in our community, eating the local food, sleeping in a mud hut. Then the last 5 days, we take you on a magical trip to the Victoria Falls, all 5-star. You go bungee jumping off the Victoria Falls Bridge, whitewater rafting on the Zambezi River. You go walking in the bush with these amazing lions. With the proceeds of this business, which is a for-profit business, I created an organization that supports the children in my village. I took over a primary school with 350 kids, and we started a feeding program to make sure that all the children got something to eat before they go to school. We got the community to help us in the making of the bricks and started a microloan program. We trained the women in the community to cut and make the school uniforms and created employment. And it has been a fantastic 20-year journey. Until in June 2017, I collapsed of heart failure in a rice field while on holiday in Bali, Indonesia. I had just turned 50. And I remember the angiogram as the cardiologist injected the dye into my veins to check if my coronary arteries were clear. And I was watching the monitor in front of me and looking at my heart as the dye rushed into all of my veins and my arteries. And I had a conversation with my heart. And I said, why? Why are you doing this to me? I'm not ready to die. I'm not finished yet. And my heart answered back ever so gently. And it said, Gertrude, you have done this to me. I pump oxygen and nutrients into every single cell in your body to keep you alive, but you've forgotten to take care of me. My illness was a blessing. I came out of that experience with so much knowledge, so much understanding. I realized that the human race is like an organism. We are one. But we forget that what happens to me affects you, and what happens to you affects me. Through all of the mistakes that I've made, I gained a lot of understanding. I was going back home to Zimbabwe, thinking I had the solution to all of our problems. I was going back to Zimbabwe with this Western perspective of what they needed, forgetting that that was the very reason why I became an activist in the first place. I did things with no consultation with the community, And so I learned a lot of lessons. But the biggest lesson that I learned is that African people have been sold a lie. Somewhere in our history, we were told that we are poor, and we believed it. Tell me, what does Africa not have? From gold to diamonds to minerals, you name it. The missing piece for Africa is education. And I believe that if we educate the next generation, things will change. So I'm here to appeal to all of you, but especially to people of African descent. Let's go back home and make a difference in our communities. My grandmother used to say that for a tree to survive, it has to scatter its seed as far away from it as possible for it to thrive. We are Africa's seeds. We're time travelers. We are going to take Africa on a quantum leap into the next century. And I'm inviting anyone who has a passion for Africa to join us, because Africa is the cradle of humanity. So, I've recently got married. I got a second chance in love in this magical castle in Poland. My amazing husband, Dariusz Kanicki, is sitting right here in the front seat. And for this one day, I felt like a queen. I decided to adorn myself with my tribal markings. The sign on my hand is the koro that belongs to the Maori tribes of New Zealand, which is now home. The design on my chest is inspired by the Aboriginal tribes of Australia. The zigzag pattern on my hand are the geometric shapes of the Shona tribe, which I was born into. And if you turn it the other way round, it represents the crown that I was wearing on my wedding day, to represent Poland. And the dots around my eyes belong to the Nguni people of Southern Africa. I realize that I am a sum total of every single person I've ever met. When you leave here today, you will take a piece of me with you home, and hopefully we'll get to connect, and I'll take a piece of you with me as well. After the wedding, I was so excited. I had all these amazing flowers. My husband knows I love roses. We had hundreds of pink and white flowers. And I wanted to take them home to New Zealand, but I can't. 2 days later, I came up with this brilliant idea that I would break up all of the flowers and give them away. I made 150 small bouquets that were distributed in a hospice to women who were dying of cancer, to the local hospital maternity ward, to women who had had a baby or who were ill. And my wedding planner, Justina, came back totally transformed because she took her 2 little sons with her and she got to experience the power of giving. She took pictures and she sent these pictures to Magda, who was the lady who put together these flowers, our florist. And when she looked through the pictures, she saw an image of an old lady in the hospice who was her grandmother's best friend. Her grandmother had died in that room 2 months ago. So our flowers went full circle and gave back love and joy to the very woman who had made them. And then I realized that everything in this universe is connected. Everything is connected. And we sleepwalk through life most of the time, oblivious of the suffering and pain of people around us or people in other parts of the world. And because everything is connected, you have to stop and think. The next time you listen to the news and you hear that there are children being treated like animals and put in cages on the southern border of Mexico and the United States, listen, do something. Think again. The next time that you hear that there are little girls from Africa who get pinned down by their mothers and their grandmothers and their aunts and go through the horrendous process of female genital mutilation, think again. Please. our children. The next time you hear that there's a shooting, a mass shooting in a school, those are your children. Don't think that it's happening over there. The difference between those kids and your child is timing, its location. That's the only difference. Do a little something. Advocate. So, to install the Ubuntu operating system is very simple. Put your family first, your community next, and if you have something to spare, do something somewhere else in the world. Thank you.
Oh, she's grabbed them.
Thanks, Gertrude. Our next presenter worked in law enforcement for 21 years, and after retirement hit the world stage sharing some valuable lessons of his career. Please welcome Matt Episcopo.
Imagine meeting someone for the first time and making a great first impression. Think you got this? Think again. The problem is most people don't have a plan. They just wing it, and they hope for the best. Well, all that changes right here, right now. I'm going to share with you a system that I've developed so that you know exactly what to say, exactly what to do, and some secret psychological tactics that'll open doors for you professionally and personally. And it all starts right here. Now, I'm curious, by a raise of your hands, how many people mentally rehearse something? Now, when I say mentally rehearse something, I'm talking about before you do something, you actually visualize it in your mind and you play it through from beginning to end with a successful outcome. How many people do that? Raise your hands. Yeah, by the end of this program, every hand's going to be up. So what I want to share with you is mentally rehearsing something is one of the first things that we need to do before we have an interaction with somebody. Because what it does is it instills confidence. Confidence. When people meet you, they want to see a confident person. And how you feel on the inside affects how you feel on the outside. Exactly. So what I would like you to do right now is I want everyone to smile. And I'm going to check your smiles. Smile, smile, and keep holding your smiles. We're going to do this for about 30 seconds, so that's a great smile. Oh, there you go. Keep on smiling. Perfect. Now, smiling builds trust, and keep holding that smile. Remember, about 30 seconds. It builds trust. When you meet someone for the first time, we're going to talk about predictive human behavior, and what we know is what they're looking for. People want to see trust. Keep holding that smile. There you go. Because after about 30 seconds, if you don't feel good on the inside, you start tricking your brain into thinking you're happy. You can do that. You can turn things around. Now, good eye contact. Now I want you to look me in the eyes while you're smiling. There you go. And I appreciate in some cultures, it's not appropriate to look somebody in the eye. But for the most part, the people that we deal with day to day are checking us for eye contact. And guess what? If you can't look them in the eyes, what do they think? Something shady, something dodgy, can't trust you. We have to instill trust. So good smile, good eye contact builds trust. Now we're going to have some fun. Are you ready for this? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have everyone stand right where you are. Stand in place. Yes. There we go. Everyone's going to stand. Shake it off a little bit. You've been sitting. There you go. Feet shoulder width apart. A good solid base. Back straight, shoulders back. Good eye contact and good smile. And repeat after me. I'm cool. I'm calm. I'm the best. Yeah. Now, here's what we're going to do. I love that part. You can throw that in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do it with a little bit of attitude and a little bit of swagger. But now we're going to have some fun. When you repeat after me, this time you're going to look at the people sitting near you. And you're going to say out loud, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm the best. Are you ready? Here we go. Attitude and swagger. Here we go. I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm the best. There you go. Oh, let's take it one step further, one step further. Now what we're going to do is I'm not going to hear anybody. I could hear a pin drop because you're going to be silent. This time we're only going to think it in our heads. We're going to think I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm the best, but we're not going to say it. But we're still going to look at people near us and think it and smile. Are you ready? With a little attitude and swagger, think it and go, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm the best. Absolutely. Do you feel the energy in the room changing already? Yes. Give yourself a round of applause and have a seat. Absolutely. That was fun. Now, see, when I was saying that you can trick your brain into thinking that you're happy just by smiling, when you're doing this self-talk and a little preparation, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm the best, that's infectious to others, and they're going to start mirroring you. You can give them that positive energy. When people meet you, they're looking for trust and credibility. That's what they're looking for. But they're judging you based on two things. Now, I know it's not right to judge people, but it's hardwired in our DNA. When you see somebody for the first time, whether they're coming at you or you're moving towards them, they start sizing you up. How they're looking at you is based on your appearance, how you're dressed, and your handshake. Those are the two qualities that they're looking at to see if they can trust you. Let's focus in on the handshake for a minute. Now, what I would like you to do is somebody sitting next to you, not yet, I just want you to shake their hand, but don't look them in the eye and don't smile. Just go ahead and shake somebody's hand. Ugh, doesn't that stink? That's horrible. We don't like how that feels. So now you have that experience. This is experiential education. I want you to have that experience so you know what that feels like. That is not a good handshake. Now we're going to make up for it. We're going to do a good handshake. But let me tell you what I would like you to do. I would like you to have your hand in this position, not this position because this is a dominant position, and not this position because this is a submissive position. Just a good quality handshake. We want to go web to web and a nice firm grip. Now don't squeeze their hand because that doesn't build trust and credibility. They won't like you if you squeeze their hand hard. And for God's sakes, don't give them the limp fish. Ugh, they'll remember you, but not in a good way. So right now, what I would like you to do is good eye contact, good smile, good handshake, and then we'll focus back up here. Go ahead and do that. That feels a lot better. Now, I want to point out one thing to you. You're all sitting. So if you're sitting next to somebody and you're shaking hands and you're both sitting, that's okay. But if someone approaches you and you're sitting, who has the power? They do. They're over the top of you. They're standing. So if someone approaches you to shake your hand and you're sitting, stand up. If you're both sitting, it's an equal playing ground. If they're over the top of you standing up, then you stand up and then you shake their hand. That's perfectly appropriate. Now, I want to show you a few things that could possibly happen when you're shaking. You know what? Before we do, let me talk about the history. Why should we even care about shaking hands? Where does this even come from? Let's go way back. It's thought that in Greece, way back in the times of BC, way before, the Greeks extended their open hand to show a sign of trust. I don't have a weapon. You can trust me. It's a sign of trust. Move forward to the Roman times. The Romans actually modified that because it was discovered people were hiding weapons. And they grabbed each other's forearm to check for weapons. The Greeks would actually shake forearms, if you will. In the medieval times, it's thought that the knights actually added the shake to the greeting to see if they could shake something loose. Are you hiding something? Is there a weapon? I'm checking. Then, more modern times in the United States, settling out west, it's my gun hand. I'm showing you I have an empty hand again, trust. So the why behind it is it's an opportunity to build trust. And we already know that people want to look for trust and credibility, so it's one more opportunity to build trust with someone. The smile, the eye contact, the handshake. Now the music's got to match the words. The music's got to match the words. So let's talk about what could happen when you shake somebody's hands. Here's a few things you might see. Somebody might go like this and give you a left hand. Sometimes I see that with people that are elderly. They may not have a good grip, carpal tunnel surgery, arthritis. It may hurt, so they're going to extend you a left hand. They're still giving you courtesy, but they don't want to use their right hand. That's fine. I'll shake someone's left hand, not a problem. You might also see somebody come over the top like this and shake your hand. That's a dominant position normally. Normally it's a dominant position when they get you one-handed over the top. Hey, how you doing? They got you, right? Well, we're not going to let that happen. So how do you counter that? What's the counter move to it? No, you don't try and twist their hand over and start thumb wrestling. That's awkward. Here's all you do. When someone comes over the top like this, you just give a quick touch anywhere from the top of the hand to the elbow like this. They come over the top, you go, nice to meet you. Done. Now I just won up to you. That's all it is. Let's say someone takes your move. They come in two-handed and get you, because some people do that. Now you've maintained your personal power. That's all it is. You're maintaining your personal power when people shake your hands. So now what I would like to do is I would like to share a story with you. I'd like to share a story with you. I was working with a young lady, and she said, Matt, I have to give a presentation. I have to give a presentation. And when I get out in front of people, I get scared. It's scary talking in front of people, and I start to stutter. And when I start to stutter, my presentation goes bad. I feel horrible. So I taught her, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm the best. She went out and did her presentation. And she came back to me afterwards, and she was glowing. She was glowing, so I knew she did well. I said, tell me what happened. And she said, well, before I went out there, I visualized going out and speaking to the crowd and having them smile and having a great presentation. And I said to myself, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm beautiful. You see, she changed the words to suit herself. And that's okay. You don't have to use my exact words. Just use the concept. And she went out there and had a great presentation. She had a great presentation. So what I want to show you is one more tip while shaking hands, because I don't want you to underestimate the power of all these things put together. When you greet somebody, as I said, the music's got to match the words. So let me tell you the words that I say when I do this. This is the fun part. Are you ready for this? So when I go to meet somebody, I literally say something to this effect. Good evening, my name is Matt. Your friends call you? Bam, shake hands. Now let's break this down quickly. Let's break this down, because a lot of psychology just happened in under 5 seconds. So I start with the time of day, either good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Matt. I'm building reciprocity. I'm giving you something personal in exchange for something personal back from you, your name. So good evening, my name is Matt. Your friends call you? What did I just do there? Instant credibility and trust. We're friends. And they're going to say their name, Brandon. So use of their name then is one more step of building trust. So again, good evening, my name is Matt. Your friends call you? Brandon. Brandon, nice to meet you. Good handshake. That's it. So now the music matches the words. And the handshake is powerful because it's our first point of touch and human connection, and everything blends together. My challenge for you tonight is to take these tools that I've taught you, use them here afterwards, take them home, take them to work, take them to school, wherever you are, and use them consistently, and make the world a better place, one connection at a time, and the world will smile. Thank you very much.
As promised, we're taking a little break, but don't get comfortable. I want to do a little flashback from TEDx 2018. Raise your hand. Who was here in 2018? Good. So you're going to introduce your neighbors to Lauren Parsons. You remember her talk on snack on exercise? Okay. We have a snack for you outside, but right now we're going to do a little snack on exercise. Are you ready? Got to stand up. Like Lauren said, it only takes a minute to get the blood moving and get things going, feeling good. So if you don't feel comfortable running in a spot, but just do a little run. Just do a little run. Get it going. If you want to twist, a little dance, it's okay. Feeling the blood moving? Having a good snack? I want to take a picture. Can you hold on? Good. You can sit down now. Before we introduce our next speaker, I want to send out a few more thanks. Like I said at the beginning, this is a community event, so it takes community partners to make it happen. We're very lucky to have our lead sponsors and partners, but they also provide us some resources that we're taking advantage of tonight. So on the cameras and the lighting, we have the team from Harwood College. We have Chris Spiewak and Gary Burlew. From SUNY Oneonta, we have Dave Geezy directing everything back in the booth. And on our cameras, we have the students from the Oneonta High School in A.J. Hecox's class, our Oneonta High School students manning the cameras tonight. I think this is the power of TED. Everyone wants to be involved because you get inspired, not just by what you see on stage, but being part of the TED community. And so I want to get our next speaker up here just as soon as we can. Snacks over, 2 more talks, and then we have a snack outside.
Our next speaker is Phoebe Schreiner, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Agricultural Development and Entrepreneurship, which is a group right here in Oneonta that works with farmers and food businesses across New York State. Prior to joining CADE, Phoebe worked around the world, leading programs in economic and social development in places such as the former Soviet Union, the Middle East, Asia, and right here in New York, with agencies such as the United Nations and USAID. Phoebe is back home now, living on her family's 8th-generation homestead in Schoharie County. Please welcome Phoebe Schreiner to the TEDx stage.
While working in the Middle East and South Asia, I could see and feel the impact of climate change all around. Human migration, the desertification of agricultural land, and water stress in places like India, Afghanistan, and Iraq. On a particular trip to India, I was awestruck by the overcrowding in Delhi, the masses of people, the traffic and car exhaust, and the pungent smell of human excrement wafting from side streets. Later, I was equally struck by how dry it was in the rural areas. A colleague later explained to me that the desertification of farmland was driving many people from rural areas into urban ones for new work opportunities. Now fast forward to 2012, and a big life-changing event happened to me personally. My beloved grandmother passed away and left my family's historic farmstead to me. In 1795, my 5 times great-grandparents settled about 600 acres in the Catskill Mountain region of upstate New York. Originally, it was a dairy farm, and then it transitioned to a cauliflower farm. And while it went out of operation in the 1950s, the land was still part of my family's 200-year-old legacy. And as 8th generation, I was too nostalgic to sell. So I decided to say farewell to my life and work abroad and come home and settle here and raise my son. But having worked in societies with expanding deserts, I could never take for granted what I saw when I came home. How lush and green it was. How driving on the small, windy mountain roads, you could see ponds and lakes and rivers and streams at nearly every turn. And I remember thinking how fortunate we are to have so much arable farmland and such abundant water. But what I also observed were the growing number of farms going out of operation, going bankrupt, being sold and divided up for second homes or vacation homes for wealthy New York City residents. How could this happen at a time when global agricultural lands are shrinking, when global water supplies are dwindling, and when food shortages are expected to increase, when the world's population is expected to rise by another 2 billion people in the next 3 short decades? Now, pondering these questions led me to the following conclusion. America needs a new food shed. And only by building this new food shed can we address one of the most primordial challenges that our society will face in the decades to come in the context of climate change: food security. Now, according to the 2017 Census of Agriculture for America, it says that between 60 to 80% of the fruits and vegetables we consume every day here in America come from California alone. Our second major food supplier is the Midwest. That's what makes these regions our nation's food sheds. But the fourth National Climate Assessment Report, research from Cornell University, and even information from NASA's climatologists all tell us the same thing, that California and the Midwest are in trouble. Higher temperatures and heat stress in these regions are intensifying wildfires, like I'm sure you hear on the news all the time. They're depleting water supplies for irrigation and increasing the incidence of pests and diseases that affect crops and livestock. And together, they are increasingly causing negative crop yields. These regions simply cannot sustain current levels of agricultural production, nor can they feed an ever-expanding US population expected to increase by another 110 million in the next 30 years. So unless we change course, America will have a food security crisis upon us and skyrocketing food prices in just a few short decades. Now, we could continue to buy food from abroad, from places like Mexico or Brazil, but these same agricultural societies, especially in the global south, are facing even greater challenges to their agricultural productivity in the context of climate change and rising temperatures. And poorer countries will have an even harder time feeding their societies than wealthier ones like ours. Okay, so let's move past the doom and gloom, right? What then is the solution to America's impending national food security crisis? My proposition is that New York State is the answer. Climate models for the foreseeable future project improved conditions for agriculture in New York. Higher temperatures mean extended growing seasons and more rainfall for us. New York happens to be strategically located on a little corner of the globe that will continue to be water abundant. How fortunate. And in the words of my friend Julia Suarez from Cornell University, water is the most vital ingredient for plant health and food production. New York also happens to be strategically and geographically located on our nation's largest population centers, and that will support easy access to food. And finally, New York has a history of agricultural production with the potential for scaling up. So in sum, New York State can be America's next food shed to feed the Northeast Corridor by 2050. Now, before we get our hopes up that there's an easy fix to America's impending national food security crisis, we also have to acknowledge that this possibility is at present actually a faraway dream, given today's realities. First, the number of farms in New York has been on the decline for the last several decades. In Otsego County, where all of us are sitting tonight, there were 400 dairy farms 30 years ago. So I want to invite you as the audience. How many do you think we have today? Shoot out a few numbers. 50, 100, 80. Well, it's 66. Also in New York, we have a short growing season, and that limits the amount of food we can produce. We have our first snowfall in November and our last in May. Now compare that to California, where they have year-round sunshine and can easily produce 3 harvests a year. Also, in New York, our family-owned farms average about 300 acres. And that has kept us operating at a low economy of scale and made it difficult to compete in the context of national and global market forces, where big agribusiness has won the day. Now, compare our small farms to California and the Midwest, where it's not unusual to find 20,000 acre farms with developed supply chains that make it cheaper to transport product from one side of the country all the way to the other than it is for us to buy food from a farm next door. Also, the average age of farmers is 59. Many are retiring. And the younger generation isn't stepping up like it used to. The economy has changed, commodity food prices have dwindled, and many young people made the choice to leave the farm and look for better paying opportunity elsewhere. It's understandable. But without that younger generation stepping up, retiring farmers have to make the tough decision to sell their land, their only asset to take care of themselves in retirement. And that means we have less arable farmland preserved for farming. Finally, we are seeing some young aspiring farmers ready to step in and pick up the mantle who didn't grow up on a multi-generation farm. But like their millennial peers, many of them are drowning in college loan debts and lack enough startup capital to start a new business or buy land at market prices. And they wonder, in today's economy, will my business turn a profit? Okay, so New York has huge potential, but we also have colossal challenges. Where do we go from here? It's simple. If we get going now, we can overcome these obstacles, leverage New York State's many blessings, and feed the Northeast by 2050. Here's the 7-step pathway for us to get there. 1, in today's get big or get out economy, we need to get increasingly smart about aggregation. Now, no one small farm in New York can feed millions of people across the Northeast, but lots of farmers banding together, aggregating their products can. An example of an aggregated business model would be my friend Ken Jaffe's business, Slope Farms. Now, Ken raises grass-fed beef on his farm, but he also buys beef from neighboring farms, puts it all together under his branding umbrella, and sells it to buyers in New York City at the volume that they need. And best of all, he gives a fair price to his neighbors. 2, we need more arable farmland back in production. That means we need to usher in lots of new beginning farmers and giving them all the support they need. A great example of this is recent New York State legislation that was just passed a few weeks ago that qualifies beginning farmers for student loan debt forgiveness programs. This is great. We need exactly more types of these programs. 3, we need research on market forces. What are all those millions of people across the Northeast eating? What do we have the capacity to produce? And how can we scale up production of those goods? Now, 4, we need to look at Holland as a model for running massive indoor growing facilities to help us overcome our short growing seasons. As espoused by Margaret Dragovich, who's actually the president of Hartwick College, here where we sit tonight, Holland feeds much of Europe through its mass greenhouses. What's to stop us from doing the same with smart new energy-saving technologies? 5. We need to consider how to close gaps in the food supply chain. Now, what do I mean by this? So it's not just the status of farms that we have to think about, but all those other businesses that help get food to market. The distributors and truckers, the food processing plants, the co-packers that package your food, the food storage warehouse facilities, and other such businesses that get food onto your grocery store shelves. Now, do we currently have enough affordable trucking in New York and across the Northeast to get food to market? As of now, the answer is no. We can't even feed New York City public school kids with local farm products. How are we going to feed the Northeast? We need big data to drive strategic business investment and planning for a strong food supply chain. And I can't emphasize this enough because too often the food supply chain gets left out of our conversations on supporting agricultural development. 6. We need public and private investment in New York's agriculture. We need leadership and long-term state planning. We need policy to align with this ambitious vision. Only by adopting a comprehensive vision and plan that's owned by state and local government leaders, the private sector, farmers, and communities alike can we realize accelerated growth in the agricultural sector. 7, and finally, we need to prepare for climate adaptation to keep our food system resilient. Now, as I've explained, New York will continue to be water abundant. But research also tells us that weather extremes and flooding, like we saw with Hurricane Irene, will worsen, and that will impact our production capacity. So we need to think ahead about improving stormwater management systems, preventing soil erosion, and so forth. So in sum, New York State can be America's next food shed by 2050. And if we can realize this vision, America's food security will be far more assured. I want to wrap by inviting you to join me in realizing this vision. If you're a New York State resident, call your state legislators and tell them you want to see New York State take a leadership role in becoming America's next food shed by 2050 and invest in planning, policy, and resources to fulfill its potential. If you're a business investor, join me in recognizing that the future of agriculture is here and invest in us. Learn more about what your peer investors are doing. Examples: Slow Money, Dirt Capital, the Local Farm Fund, or the Chobani Impact Fund. And consider in the near term a social, not just a financial return on investment. If you're a consumer in the Northeast, talk to your local grocery stores and tell them to stock more product from New York and neighboring states in the Northeast. And finally, from wherever you are in America, from sea to shining sea, buy local, from a farm stand, a farmer's market, or a grocery store. All of you can help. Your voice and your wallets are your most powerful leverage for ensuring food security for yourselves, your children, and your grandchildren. I thank you.
Anyone inspired yet this evening? Wow. It's so fantastic. What a great night. Our last TED speaker this evening is very excited to be back here in upstate New York. She's originally from Glens Falls. As an entrepreneur, she achieved beyond her wildest dreams, and she loves to share her knowledge by teaching other business leaders and whoever wants to learn how she does it. And she's here tonight to share her secrets with you. Please give a big warm welcome to Kate Scudder.
Every single one of us has genius inside. What if we were brave enough to believe it? One of my favorite memories growing up as a kid was Thanksgiving weekend. Our cousins would drive up from Long Island, and for days the house would be filled with that smell of onions and stuffing and turkey and thick family tension. But of all our traditions, there was one I looked forward to most. Every year on the Friday, we'd all bundle up and go out to the movies. I looked forward to this every year, but especially the years we went to go see a new Harry Potter. Gryffindor? I remember one year going into my mom's makeup bag to grab her eyeliner pencil to draw the little lightning bolt on our foreheads. That memory with my family wouldn't be real. In fact, none of my memories of being huddled up in bed with a thick book devouring page after page of the Harry Potter saga. Or fast forward to just a few months ago, I was speaking with my sister-in-law who lives in Sydney, who flew down with her husband on a special trip to go see the theater production on stage of Harry Potter in Melbourne. All this imagination sparked. All of these memories created for millions of people around the world would not be real if in 1990, one woman sitting on a delayed train on her way from Manchester to London had not been brave enough to take out her pen, bring it to the page, and take that first bold step to turn her idea into reality. Potter Inc. today is estimated to be a $25 billion operation. And while there is no doubt about it, J.K. Rowling is an absolute genius, I don't think she's got something that special. No offense. I believe every single one of us has unique genius inside, waiting to be expressed, a message that wants to be spoken, a purpose that wants to be pursued, and a legacy that wants to be left. But most of us don't act on it because we don't believe we can do it. J.K. Rowling was working as a researcher and a secretary when she first conceived the idea for Harry Potter. It took 7 years for that first book to come into publication, and during that time, she endured almost every struggle imaginable. All of the music and the stories that have shaped our collective culture and imagination, all of the technology and devices now so woven into the fabric of our lives that a reality without them seems unthinkable. All of this life as we know it is the result of individual people like you and me choosing to risk pursuing an idea within them. So why not you? What is it that stops everyday people like you and me from risking becoming who we were meant to be? That is the question I have devoted my life to for the last few years. As a business coach and success catalyst for entrepreneurs, I've helped everyone from digital marketers to dog walkers rediscover their unique genius and bravely share it with the world. In my time, I found there are 3 main roadblocks that no matter who you are or what path you're pursuing are likely to get in your way. The first is the fear of failure. Now, if you've ever felt an inkling of curiosity bubble up inside you that says, ooh, I really want to do that, or I kind of want to try that, you know that the immediate response that fires next, thanks to your amygdala, the center in your brain responsible for triggering fear, is, whoa, 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 hold it right there. This is not safe, back it right up. The fear of failure runs deep, and in our heads sounds a little something like this. Just what do you think you are doing? What if you fall flat on your face? What if you fail? What if you flop, have to live under a bridge in a cardboard box, or worse, move back in with your parents? Do you really think that's a good idea? Sound familiar? I remember in August of 2014, the exact moment I sent in my resignation letter, walking away from the position as Spanish teacher I'd worked so hard in graduate school to get. And with one swift click of the send button, there went my health insurance, income security, and any semblance of a clue of what I was doing. I loved being in front of the room. I loved inspiring young minds, but I knew that my life's purpose was not to teach the subjunctive clause to 14-year-olds. Something had to change. I wasn't miserable, but I felt stagnant and numb. Viscerally, like I had untapped potential rotting inside me, but I had no idea what I wanted or how to go about doing it. What I did know was that staying stuck was no longer an option. When is the last time you have felt a gut instinct that it was time for something to change, that something else was calling you? When's the last time you've brushed that instinct off, buried it away, or deemed it crazy because you felt terrified of leaving behind the comfort of your safe, known world? It's in this moment, I call it the face-off moment, when there's a truth bubbling up inside you. Your gut knows you were born for more. Your brain is terrified, and you're asking yourself, can I really do this? It's in this moment that I want you to ask yourself just how exactly you define failure. Spending your life, this one shot you get in this body, in this time, on this planet, here to do something, avoiding decisions that stretch your growth, that is the real failure. Every meaningful thing worth doing in your life is going to require you, at one point or another, to get outside your comfort zone. If you fail, so what? Do you think that any of the people that you look up to, anybody that you admire, has gotten to where they are because they strategically, magically came into possession of the one path that allowed them to sidestep failure? No. Making mistakes, hitting roadblocks, falling down, that's par for the course when you're literally doing something you have never done before. But failure is not that. Failure is getting to the end of your life, wondering, what if I just went for it? And wishing you'd been brave enough to try. Now this is where it gets really good. Because the moment you redefine your definition of, and therefore your relationship with, failure, you get to roadblock number 2, which is not the fear of failure, but the fear of success. When you stop incessantly asking yourself, what if this doesn't work? Another question arises. What if this does work? What if I'm actually really good at it? What if this starts to build momentum and reality as I know it right now is completely about to change. Can I really handle that? Am I ready for it? Me? In February of 2015, I flew to Bali for a yoga teacher training and women's leadership immersion. I spent a month up in the mountains redefining and working on myself. Just a few days after that training, and 3 days before I was set to fly out of Bali, I locked eyes with a guy who was sitting around a table with his friends at the beach. I trusted my gut, and I decided to sit down. That man is now my husband. I moved to Bali to start our life together there in December of 2015. And wouldn't you know it, just 3 weeks later, I had a booming 6-figure business. Not. Of course not. Here's what actually happened. I still had no job. I was terrified. I was posting regularly to the Western Massachusetts Craigslist page my ads for Skype Spanish tutoring lessons. Now, the more I stayed in Bali, the more I knew I wanted to start my own business. I was surrounded by other incredible, inspiring entrepreneurs, and I thought, I want to learn how to do that. But it did not happen overnight. What it took was a level of radical responsibility, self-trust, and a willingness to figure it out that I had never known before. Guys, I flew to Australia 2 weeks early before my husband's 40th birthday party to work a nannying gig so that I could afford to be there. For a year and a half, I wrote user documentation for a technology software company so that I could fund my stay in Bali, give myself some time, and figure things out. If you want success, stop believing the imagined mirage that leaping into your calling looks like a graceful swan dive into a heated infinity pool. Creating success actually requires 2 things. Number 1, that you are willing to work through the muck, the messy middle, that you're willing to be bad at the thing, whatever the thing is, as you work to get decent and then better and then good. Number 2, it requires that you keep going, that you learn to live and continue moving forward with the constant presence of uncertainty and no guarantees. You already know how to color within the lines, do what you're told, and play by the rules. Believing you are capable enough to write your own rules and then go excel within them, now we're talking next level you. And when I talk about creating success, I don't just mean starting your own business or elbowing your way to the top of your company or organization. I mean asking yourself what lights you up, what dream you want to pursue, and then deciding that you're going to go do it. Do you want to plan your first solo road trip? Do you want to finally publish your first blog post? Do you want to stop pretending that you're just a dabbling artist and finally submit that gorgeous thing that's been on your easel for the last 4 months to an art show? Whatever you want, you can do it when you decide. Your opportunities for success are directly linked with the level of risk you are willing to take. But make no mistake, when you do decide, some people around you may have strong opinions. And it's the fear of disappointing other people that's the 3rd biggest roadblock you need to overcome in order to rise. The concept of tall poppy syndrome dates back centuries to the time of Herodotus and Aristotle, which is the notion that those who excel, achieve, or stand out are castigated, outcast, looked down on by their peers for shining too bright. Modern translation, you get shade thrown at you for shining. While the United States is lauded as the most industrious, achievement-oriented nation in the world, we still see this play out today in communities, friend groups, families, especially for women. We're taught to believe that being humble, helpful, and moderate in our desires and ambitions is preferable. Drop dead gorgeous, brilliant, creative, ambitious, connected, fulfilled on purpose? Can you really be all of that? You can, but not if you are too busy worrying if it will upset the people around you. If your growth makes someone else uncomfortable, it might be time to do some reevaluating. If you are afraid to lose the acceptance of someone in your life because you finally decided to claim what you really want, it might be time to ask yourself just how much that person's acceptance really matters to you. You are not here to be the backup singer to someone else's solo. This is your life. And I know because I've been there, I get how scary this is and how devastating it can be. But know this, if the worst happens, if you are judged by someone whose high opinion once meant the world to you, you're going to get through it. And in fact, it will only grow your resilience. Because if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, this is the woman, this is the man, this is the person I am meant to become, then you must risk disappointing other people in order to become that, because that is the version of you that we all need. So how do you cultivate this? How do you practice this risk of rising into who you were meant to become? I want you to promise me something tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. When you go home, I want you to find a piece of paper and I want you to write down one dream, one goal, one ambition, one vision for your life. It doesn't matter how big or small. I want you to take it out, something that's been stuffed away, put it on the page. Tomorrow, when you wake up, I want you to look at it. And I want you to commit to taking action this week to move that dream just one step further. Every single one of us has genius inside. What if we were brave enough to act on it? Thank you so much.
And there you have it. That completes 18 TED Talks in Oneonta. 5 more tonight, 3 times. You are all now a part of TEDx Oneonta, so let's keep it going outside in the reception area. Stick around, have some food, have some conversation, talk to the TED team, talk to the TED speakers. Before I let you go out there, I want to say a few more things. I talked about the sponsors, some of the crew that came to help, but none of this would have been possible without the TED team that put all the planning effort together to recruit the speakers, to get the venue, to advertise it, to do all the work, none of it paid, all volunteer, to make this happen. So I know they're nearby, they might be hiding, but now they got to get on stage. So here's Leslie. Lisa, Liz. You're over there now. We have Lisa again, Lisa Michelle and Lisa Samuels, Aaron, Lynn, and AJ. This is the team that has spent the better part of this year making this happen, so thank you. And keep the applause going for our TED speakers from 2019, if they can come back on stage. Here comes Matt down the aisle, and Gertrude, and Kate, and Phoebe. And here comes Abby. Come on up, come on up, come on up. Thank you so much. Enjoy the time out in the reception area. That concludes this part of the program.